Tosha Khana is a landmark Supreme Court case that established government regulations and guidelines for the fair and equitable allocation of limited resources. It was argued in the court during early 1952, in the aftermath of India's independence. The case involved a dispute between two local water service providers vying for usage rights over a common source of water. The court ultimately decided in favor of the complainant, and laid down the conditional regulatory framework for the fair and equitable distribution of limited natural resources in India. The ruling established the need to regulate the usage of natural resources in such a way so as to ensure just distribution among all sections of the population. The decision also set out the guidelines that public institutions had to follow when allocating water resources among multiple parties. The Tosha Khana case was a landmark decision in terms of its influence on Indian public policy as it set the precedent for future regulatory decisions. The ruling led to the establishment of a number of governmental institutions that could be held accountable for the fair and equitable distribution of natural resources. These included the Indian Water Regulatory Board, the Water Resources Authority, and the National Commission on Water Resources. These regulatory bodies play a vital role in controlling and monitoring the usage of water resources in India. The decisions taken by these bodies must be in alignment with the constitutional provisions and the policy of the Government of India. The ruling of the Tosha Khana case is seen as a basis on which ensuing resource allocation and regulation issues can be based on. The ruling provided the framework for future cases as well, where disputes over limited resources were solved through dispute resolution mechanisms in the court. The decision also established a legal document that states could use as reference when developing public policies. The Tosha Khana decision helped to create a transparent and fair environment for the allocation and usage of limited resources in India. The ruling also set out the important role that government has to play in terms of responsible regulation and prevention of resource exploitation. The decision by the Supreme Court emphasized the need for transparency and accountability while planning for the equitable distribution of resources. The case has an important role to play in issues concerning water scarcity, water conservation, and water management. The decision also created new avenues for public participation and transparency when it came to resource allocation decisions made by the government. The Tosha Khana case has led to the implementation of various policy measures that emphasize the need for responsible resource utilization. The decision and its implications are far-reaching and can be used to solve many issues concerning natural resources in India. The decision also changed the way in which the courts could approach and solve dispute resolution in matters concerning natural resources. The case also opened the door for legal actions to be taken against organizations and companies who exceed their permissible limits in terms of resource utilization. The ruling of the case also helped to bring in greater public scrutiny for the agencies responsible for allocating resources. The decision of the court also opens up a new avenue for responsible resource utilization, as it has become easier to take legal action against those exploiting resources.